Getting a MacBook is not going to make you super happy. I'm so happy that I recently built a Windows PC that I can use for gaming. Using both a MacBook and a Windows PC means that I can get the best of both worlds. It's the ultimate setup I dreamed about for so long, and I finally have it. I would love a regular USB-A port. It's nice that things are moving towards USB-C, but there's so many things that still use USB-A, like my hard drive connectors or mouse dongles. I hate that there's not even one USB-A port on this pro computer. Speaking of ports, when I plug in my IEMs, by the way, these are the best quality to price ratio earbuds I've ever owned, there's a slight hissing or electric noise that's always there unless I pull the charging cable out of my MacBook. And this is really annoying, but I also have a pair of wireless earbuds that I started using instead of the IEMs to avoid dealing with this issue. The notch. I don't get why it's there, but I pretty much never notice it. Almost forgot to mention it. It's there though. Repairability and upgradability. It's just not a thing with Apple laptops. Thankfully, I didn't yet run into any issues that would force me to open up the laptop or have it repaired, but I know that when that happens, it's going to be a huge pain. I probably won't be able to do it myself, like with my Windows laptop, which means that it will make more sense to just buy a new MacBook instead of having this one repaired because of how much repairing costs. Also, I hate that you can't upgrade the RAM or storage. What you buy is what you're stuck with. This is how much storage actually costs, by the way, and this is how much Apple is charging for it. Just FYI. Also, things like removing the keyboard keys. It's strangely complicated, and I managed to break one pin on the F key trying to remove it because there was something stuck inside preventing it from being clicked. So was it worth spending over $2,000 on this laptop 2 years ago? Yes. I think if you're someone who isn't scared of spending time learning and adjusting to how a different operating system works, if you don't want to do hardcore gaming on your laptop, if you already have an iPhone and your budget allows it, then I think you'll enjoy your MacBook experience. Oh, and there's one more thing I forgot to mention. Psych.
Horowitz, for many, 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 many years, was by far and away my favorite pianist. And like, he's still my single favorite piece of music, and my single favorite performance of it is his. So it's Scriabin's Opus 8 number 12. So like the D minor,
D sharp,
sorry.
Not a key not a key you want to touch. It's very prickly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And his performance in that 1968 televised concert is like, I think, like the most compelling thing I've ever heard.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's the piece. That performance is part of the reason I'm a pianist. I mean, that exact performance of that exact piece, when I first saw it, also just there's something about the color of that old, CBS live performance from behind the piano, and he comes out with this strong bass. It's one of the most rhapsodic, passionate, pieces I'd never heard of Scriabin before, and I was an immediate convert when I saw that. That piece I had to learn it because of Horowitz, just like I had to learn the chord variations.
God help you.
Well, yeah, and actually I thought there's no way I could play it. But in college, again, I had the time to be crazy enough to sit down and figure out how to make all those left-hand jumps work. And it's good that it's in D sharp minor, because that means you're almost exclusively playing black keys, which on the page looks frightening. But if you just look at the keyboard and you forget about how all this is notated, it's actually more comfortable in certain ways to use the black keys that way. And so these jumps started to fit, and I realized I could redistribute some with my right hand. And I just needed to basically master a couple of challenging octave parts, and I was starting to do my best Horowitz impression. Challenging octave parts, and I was starting to do my best Horowitz impression. I took this piece to Jerry Lowenthal, one of my teachers at Juilliard, and he hadn't heard me play it before, and I was about to play it on the radio somewhere, and I just wanted to run it for him. And I come in and I start with the Horowitz, just bashing the left-hand octaves, just cacophony. And he stops me. Stop. Why does everyone have to try to play this like Horowitz? Cacophony. And he stops me. Come in and he hadn't heard me play it before, and I was about to play it on the radio somewhere, and I just wanted to run it for him. And I come in and I start with the Horowitz, just bashing the left-hand octaves, just cacophony. And he stops me. Stop. Why does everyone have to try to play this like Horowitz? He said, and he showed me. He said, first of all, there's no dynamic indication at the beginning, and you can start very quietly, and it's extremely effective. Later on, I saw there's a later Horowitz performance, I think in London, where he plays the same piece, and he begins it almost pianissimo. So even Horowitz did the opposite.
Which sort of brings me to Yunchan Lim, which I think is a thing that folks are not familiar. Like, they should definitely go to YouTube or to like their favorite streaming platform or whatnot and like start listening to some of the work by this kid. And it's, yet again, one of these things that really makes me believe that there's just something very deeply human about this art form that I think people can get very confused about. Because like you've got a technical instrument and like a very technical discipline of playing. But like the thing that's miraculous about it is like the human piece of it. So like how, and like, you know, what I'm talking about, like Yunshan Lim is like, he's 20 years old now, maybe 21.
Just 20.
So yeah. So a couple of years ago at the Van Cliburn piano competition, which is one of the world's like big piano competitions for, you know, young musicians to go prove themselves to the world. He wins the competition, and there's a concerto performance at this competition, and like everyone was performing the Rachmaninoff's third piano concerto, and he comes out and delivers this performance that was unbelievable. Like one where the conductor is like wiping a tear away from her eyes. You know, like the orchestra that was playing with him like had this crazy reaction to the performance, and it's just unbelievable. Like, and up until that point, like that 78 you know, Ormandy performance that Horowitz had given was like my high watermark. And like I changed my mind. It was like, you know, this thing for 50 years was like test of time, like so many people thought it was the best, and then all of a sudden they're changing their opinion. And part of it was like the whole performance, like watching him play it was part of what made it compelling. And look, so everyone should go watch your analysis of this performance, because I think it's the best one on the internet, trying to explain why it is that this young man had done something extraordinary with a 100-year-old score and a multiple 100 years old instrument that has been played a million times, recorded thousands of times, analyzed within an inch of its life by like very smart people and very great artists. And yet, you know, here he comes and he does something new and surprising. Like, it's amazing.
There's an old romantic notion that music is ineffable. It expresses things that can't be expressed in words. And I think we agree that there's truth to that. You even said something that's similar. But it also, I think, has led to a deficit in good analysis and commentary, at least in popular, you know, mainstream of music. There's a kind of fear of talking about what makes a performance great or interpretation great. It's almost like explaining a joke. It's like, no, don't do that. It's just supposed to hit us and then leave it alone. And I remember in college, somebody giving a lecture recital, and there was somebody sort of grumbling next to me. It's like, can't we just let the music speak for itself? You know, that's the thing you're supposed to say about it. And I remember sort of being puzzled because I was always overly analytic about everything. And here I am, not letting music speak for itself, but speaking way too much about music. But people really appreciated that. You know, I just took his performance, and I clarified it for myself. What made this connect with me? And then when I listened back and took all these notes on everything, I realized, oh, he was listening to Horowitz here, or he sort of discovered an inner voice there. And it helped that I just heard countless performances of this over the years, that I could sort of listen anew and hear somebody, on the one hand, synthesizing certain older interpretations, but also integrating them into his own new sort of take on it. And what was fun about what I did, and I think what people really appreciated, is they had this moving experience that they couldn't quite explain. And so to have somebody else help clarify for them what was so special about it made them want to re-listen. And so then when they re-listened and it got to those passages, they heard more. They actually heard it was a different experience. I mean, we think, oh, I've heard that piece before, or even I've heard that recording before. But this music is way too rich. There's too much going on. There's too much polyphony. There's tens of thousands of notes. There's infinite ways that you could, of a variety of ways of approaching it and phrasing it, that even just listening to the same recording, you're going to notice a new detail. Or if you do know a detail's coming, you're going to enjoy it again in maybe a new way. And so I was actually showing people that there's a way to listen to classical music that they hadn't experienced before, one that necessitates re-listening, one that requires that you sort of notice things, become aware of them, and appreciate when others point things out to you. Because that's how I got into it. I had others be like, listen to this moment, you know, wait for it. Did you hear how they did? And so I loved that kind of engagement with others. And YouTube was just, for me, the greatest opportunity to platform to sort of create that. It also allows me to indulge my longstanding interest in just creating video, creating content. I've been editing video since high school projects, you know, and finally it's coming to good use. And so now I get to design these things where I both clarify things for myself in these video essays and analyses, but also I get to design the way it looks and how the score appears on the page. And I love editing the music. So it's like one performance will sync up suddenly with another performance, you know, almost you didn't hear it, but now that helps you hear the difference. Like putting Horowitz and Argerich and Yunshan back to back to back. So it sounds like one seamless performance, but you can hear, you know, it helps just bring into relief what's so different about them. And so I think I'm just getting started. I'm just starting to experiment with these techniques, and I think other people should do it too. I want there to be a bigger ecosystem of media and classical music content creators. There's some great ones out there, but for the most part, what I'm doing, I just kind of feel like, feel pretty lonely about it. Like I used to when I was just practicing Chopin by myself in the 9th grade. So it's an exciting time, I think, to bring this otherwise thing we're nerding out about to a broader public. And I think a lot of people are interested in it. So.
landscape orientations, they've just made it not good with either. Because for portrait, it needs to be higher up, so you're not going like this. And for landscape, it needs to be lower, like here. So you can actually reach it without using some weird, unconventional hand claw. Separately though, I will say I appreciate how you can now pause a video recording. So you can have multiple separate clips in one video, as opposed to having multiple videos. And also how you don't need to stop whatever music is playing on your phone when you start recording. These are both overdue, but good improvements for creators in iOS 18. But what about the photo quality? Because while the main camera hasn't changed on this 16, you know that new A18 chip that the phone has? It does contain a brand new image signal processor, which every year is becoming a bigger factor for your photos. So I thought this would be a fun thing to do. This is the iPhone 16, this is last year's iPhone 15, and then this is an iPhone 12, which I imagine is closer to what most of you might be upgrading from.